My biggest challenge for this week's episode was this: how can I take such a big, messy, and really just complex topic like the British royal family and make it simple and easy to understand for all of you guys? Like, it's harder than you think. The British royal family is very, and I mean very complicated. I'm not going to go through each member of this ridiculous family tree because, let's be honest, you're not going to remember it. Instead, let's take a step back and approach this from a broader, more simplified angle. By the end of this episode, you'll know everything you need to know about the British monarchy and you'll be able to remember it. Welcome to Vlogs of Knowledge. I'm pretty confident in my abilities to make things simple and easy to understand. Like, when I approach a subject, I like to just focus on the important stuff and ignore the rest. And so far, it's worked out. Like, you guys leave me a lot of comments every single week telling me that I make things really simple and easy to understand. So this week, let's try it again, but this time with the British monarchy. The British monarchy is the most popular monarchy, period. Like, everybody knows who Queen Elizabeth is and everybody has seen her picture at least at one point in their lives. She became queen in 1952 and has been ruling ever since. In fact, her rule is actually the longest rule of any monarch in our entire history. That's actually quite interesting. Now, I don't know about you guys, but I personally don't know a lot about the Queen, at least before researching this video. It seems to me like most people know of the Queen but don't really know anything about her life in detail. Like, what kind of power does she have? What does her day look like? Or just what does she do in general? But before getting to that, as always, let's put all this in historical context and get some background. Although in this case, there's like 1,000 years of historical context to look at. We're just not going to do it all. That'll take forever to cover it all. Instead, I'll just give you a brief history lesson on the British monarchy and some important points. The island that is today Great Britain has had its fair share of conquests and invasions. The one that is important in our case is the one that happened in 1066. That year, the territory was conquered by the Normans, who took the English monarchy and passed it to its leader and its successors. That invasion marks the beginning of the very complex family tree that is the royal family of Britain. Filled with corruption, illegitimate children, assassinations, and so on, it's almost like something that came out of a movie. In fact, if you want to be entertained, that's probably a good place to start. The long line of kings and queens has seen and taken part in most of the major events that happened in like the last 1,000 years or so. From the Crusades to the Napoleonic Wars to literally being the biggest empire in history, British monarchs were usually involved in one way or another. They were once very important people who held a lot of power, as a traditional king or queen should have. But history has it that with the invention of government and parliament, eventually the British monarchy's powers began to decrease. What's left today is but a fraction of what was before. We're now going to spend some time looking at the slow decrease of the monarch's powers over time. It's really important to know what happened and why because it'll give us some insight as to how the British monarchy is today. With that, we'll be able to understand really how the Queen lives, what kind of power does she have, if any. There's really three main reasons why this loss of power happened: a document called Magna Carta, the English Civil War, and the Glorious Revolution. While none of these events by themselves were enough to really take down the monarch's powers, all three events combined over time were. The Magna Carta is a document that is still seen today by the British as the foundation for ideas of liberty and free speech. It was proposed by a council of barons and eventually signed by the British king. The document is very important because it was signed in the year 1215. That's like very early for ideas about human rights and liberty. It promoted basic human rights like the right to free speech, the right to be represented, and the right to have a fair trial, but it also put some early limitations on a monarch's powers. One of its clauses states that nobody is above the law, not even the monarch, which is kind of different compared to other monarchies that we've seen, right? We're kind of used to monarchs having all the power, making laws as they want, as they go, and just really doing whatever they want to do. Fast forward about 400 years and we have the English Civil War, a war between the supporters of the monarchy and the supporters of Parliament. The reasons for the war were the usual reasons for any sort of conflict: money, power, and religion. The king was really just abusing his power and the people were angry. Not only did he marry a Catholic, which was a very bad thing to do in Protestant England, but he also tried to change the church to make it more Catholic, which of course pissed the people off, and he also closed down the parliament for 11 years when he disagreed with something that they proposed. Because of course, if you're a king and you want to shut down parliament for 11 years, well, you can. Who's really going to stop you? You can do whatever you want, you have all of the power. The parliament, obviously not happy, I mean it's kind of hard to find somebody who would be happy in such a situation, eventually raised an army big enough and actually went to war with the monarch. The end result of the war is that they won, they killed the king, they exiled his son, and greatly reduced the powers of the monarchy. While they still kept the monarchy, they made it subject to the parliament, but even then it still wasn't 100% official, it wasn't really complete, which brings us to our last event, the Glorious Revolution. The Glorious Revolution is called that way because it was relatively not violent, at least compared to the English Civil War. It was a revolution in which England replaced its Catholic king with a Protestant king, who then went on to sign the Bill of Rights in 1689, officially giving Parliament supremacy. Like, now it was official, now it was fully complete. The bill formally invited the Protestant king to come and rule over England under a set of conditions and limitations. Basically, he was allowed to rule as long as Parliament had the upper power. From that moment on, Parliament was in charge. It was the start of the constitutional monarchy of the United Kingdom. So what is a constitutional monarchy? Well, it's a political system in which you can have a king or a queen, but their power is limited by the constitution. Just like the Magna Carta, no person is above the law. Like, that's really useful if you want to have a king or a queen, but you want to sort of limit their power, you know, not let them go crazy and do whatever they want, like maybe shut down Parliament for 11 years. This was very important for Britain because, as history shows us, kings and queens, well, they tend to abuse their power if they have too much of it. Like, on this show, we've seen so many examples of kings and queens having so much power, like, you have to control these people. So this is, in a very simple way, the brief history of the British monarchy and the loss of its powers. Now, to go back to the beginning of this video, let's look at the British monarchy today and see how much power does the Queen really have. Like, does she have any power anymore? In Canada, we've always been told that the Queen is just a figurehead and that she doesn't hold any real power. At least that's how I learned it in school. We have her on our coins, we're part of the British Commonwealth, which she is the head of, but apparently she has no power. While researching this topic, I came across a slightly different answer. Like, generally it's true, the Queen has almost no power left. The keyword here being almost. She does have some power left, but she can't really use it. I mean, unless she wants to piss off the whole Parliament of England and possibly even the whole world. So let's look at some of them. Technically, no British law can be passed without the Queen's approval. It's something called the royal assent. She has to sign every single bill that is being passed for it to be effective. Now, I said technically because, well, if she really wanted to, she could choose not to sign the document, but no monarch, king or queen has done it since the year 1707. Since Parliament is the one who runs things and makes all the laws, it's really not the Queen's position to block any sort of law. Like, this whole thing of her signing is just really a formality. If the Queen was to actually do it and really block a law, well, Parliament would be very angry and they would be quick to just find a workaround to fix the solution, and they could because they have the higher authority. Now, besides approving bills, another one of the Queen's phantom powers is to appoint prime ministers. Again, technically that's true, she's the one that makes it official, but the reality of the matter is that prime ministers are usually the head of the political party with the most seats in the House of Commons. So yeah, she's the one that makes it official, but really the prime ministers are already chosen. Like, she has no control in who gets to be chosen as prime minister. All she does is she has a sort of meeting with them, and that meeting, once the prime minister has it, they're considered officially to become the Prime Minister of England. The Queen is also the commander-in-chief of the military. All members of the armed forces swear an oath of allegiance to the Queen when they join. I mean, they are called Her Majesty's Armed Forces. Like, she can technically declare war or make peace, but really she's not going to do it without talking with Parliament first. The current political system between the Parliament and the monarchy is actually quite interesting and perhaps one of the best outcomes possible. The Queen can stay Queen and really enjoy all the benefits, like the title, the fame, the reputation, and Parliament can actually sit down and focus on things that really matter, like running the country, for example, and not being banned for 11 years. Like, 11 years, come on. Generally, the Parliament keeps the monarchy in the loop by having one-on-one meetings every single week. The Queen gives advice to the Prime Minister on what to do, but holds no real power over any decision made afterwards. And the Prime Minister, he listens, he takes the advice, and actually gives some advice of his own. They meet regularly, they talk, they discuss, and really just listen to each other without trying to obstruct the other's power. It's a very nice, respectable relationship with a healthy set of compromises. Like, I'm really actually happy that it turned out this way. Like, it could have been much worse, like much worse. So that was a brief overview of the British monarchy and its powers. I think you'll notice that I didn't really use any names. At least, I don't think I did. Because I don't think that names matter all that much. In fact, I think that they might confuse you. I think what's important is really what happened and why. And besides, if you really want to know about names, you can just do some more research on your own. I've gone ahead and put some links in the description where you can start. I hope that I was able to make this simple enough so that you can understand this video and really grasp the general idea of what happened. Taking 100 years of really complicated history can be a little hard sometimes, so if you enjoyed this video, please leave it a big like, share it to a friend, and also make sure to subscribe because it really does help me out a lot. It shows me that you enjoy watching my content. And of course, time for questions. What did you know about the British monarchy before I made this video? What surprised you the most? And are you happy with the way it turns out? Like, would you have wanted something else? Please do leave me a comment. I would love to read them all. And bonus points for you, if you do leave a comment, you might get featured in next week's video as a fan of the week. As you know, and as I say at the end of every video, I haven't talked about everything, and the things that I did talk about, I haven't gone into too much detail. That's okay, I'm actually doing this on purpose because I want you guys to go out and research on your own. My name has been Darius Cousin. You can follow me on social media, the links will be in the description, and also make sure to check out my second channel where you get to see behind the scenes of everything that I do on this channel. Link is also in the description. It's been an absolute pleasure, and I will see you all next week.